champions in that division. You got Scott Quinn, Carl Frampton, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
I'm gonna get the opportunity, boy. You working your ass off, don't you?
Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Deontay's Boxing Nation. I see it, baby. Y'all the man.
That's what it is.
I love it. I love what you're doing for boxing.
Thank you, man.
Don't stop. Keep on going strong. Keep on going hard. A lot of big fights coming this year. A lot of big fights.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So the other day, Floyd Mayweather was training. It was a sparring day. And I have to tell you guys, Floyd Mayweather is really feeling good right now. I mean, he's always feeling good when he's training, but it was just an extra glow that he had. You know, he was just in very high spirits when he was training, you know, the day I was there. Once again, he sparred with a couple guys, and he just had fun in there, just playing with the guys the entire sparring session. Then he moves to the heavy bag. While he's hitting the heavy bag, you know, he's talking, right? He's talking basically to the crowd around him as he's working out. And he says something that I thought was pretty interesting. He mentions Muhammad Ali. And exactly what he says is, quote, yeah, Muhammad Ali was good, but he lost to Leon Spinks, who only had 7 fights, right? End quote, pretty much. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting that he said that for many different reasons. The irony of him even saying this is Muhammad Ali, or Floyd Mayweather, I should say, if you really think about it, he is the modern day Muhammad Ali. He is. The flashy, flamboyant, talks a lot. They call Muhammad Ali the Louisville Lip, meaning that's all he did was talk. You know, you've seen reporters trying to cover his mouth. That's what Muhammad Ali was known for. Now, what's interesting is Muhammad Ali, he would always say, the great Joe Louis could never beat me. I was much better than Joe Louis, and he would explain why. He would say Joe Louis was flat-footed. He was very, very slow, like molasses, right? Muhammad Ali, you know, he would give demonstrations. I'd be dancing circles around him, right? Talking about him having a bum of the month club, etc., etc. I remember one debate or a conversation he had with the great Customato, who you guys know trained Mike Tyson and trained the late Floyd Patterson. Customato gets into a debate with Muhammad Ali, telling Muhammad Ali, you wouldn't stand a chance against Joe Louis. Joe Louis, he fought real fighters. You fought nobody, etc., etc. And Muhammad Ali is like, what? I fought nobody? This man, Joe Louis, had a bum of the month club, and you telling me I fought nobody? I fought bums? That's exactly what Customato said. He said Muhammad Ali fought nothing but bums, right? Now, all of a sudden, you fast forward to present day, and in a certain sense, history repeats itself. You have fans or detractors of Floyd Mayweather who personally don't like him. They say the exact same things. Even though they said he was afraid of Manny Pacquiao, Floyd fights Manny Pacquiao, they make excuses. He beats whatever fighter they throw in front of him, they make excuses, right? They're saying the same things about Floyd Mayweather that they said about Muhammad Ali. How ironic is that? See, what you guys don't understand, matter of fact, let me ask you the question. If I ask you who was a better fighter, Muhammad Ali or Joe Louis, 9 out of 10 of you guys will pick Muhammad Ali, right? You know why you guys would pick Muhammad Ali? Because we as human beings, we evolve, right? Everything we do in life, we evolve. For example, do you think it would be easier to catch a criminal today or 60 years ago? It's obvious the answer would be today, right? You got DNA, you got surveillance cameras, you got all type of high-tech equipment that you didn't have back then. You could say the same thing about boxing, right? The type of fighters that you have today, you didn't have those type of fighters back then. That's not to suggest, a fighter of today would never lose to a fighter of yesteryear. That's not what I'm saying. But the point that I'm making is clearly we evolve. You look at basketball. They didn't have the slam dunks that you see today, the crossovers and all of those plays that basketball players do today. They weren't using those plays 50 years ago because we evolved. Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest fighters of all times. But if you compare Muhammad Ali's opponents to Floyd Mayweather's opponents, what you will notice is the majority of Muhammad Ali's opponents, they all fought the same way. The majority of his toughest opponents were very flat-footed, easy to hit type of opponents. Joe Frazier, George Foreman, and Sonny Liston, those three fighters in particular, they had a very predictable style, right? No extreme rhythm, no, jab that is thrown at different speeds and velocities and all that kind of stuff. No type of ridiculous rhythm, no special effects, right? Now, when Muhammad Ali was in his prime, the only fighter he fought who really had a very unorthodox style, and the guy knew how to box, had a good jab, had somewhat of a good defense, a decent defense, right? The only fighter that Muhammad Ali fought that was that unorthodox was a fighter with only 7 fights by the name of Leon Spinks. You see, what separates Floyd Mayweather from Muhammad Ali and the majority of fighters in the history of the sport is Floyd Mayweather is a master at adjusting to any style. Now we know Muhammad Ali, he came back, fought Leon Spinks in a rematch, and he won, but even the rematch was razor thin, right? If Floyd Mayweather is in a fight, and it is a competitive fight, we already know that if he gets a rematch, he's going to come back and most likely dominate that opponent, like he did Castillo, like he did Maidana. And once again, it's funny how, we are programmed to just hear these names like, oh, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, or, Duran, Hagler. Those names have become synonymous with words like legends, the greatest, etc., etc. We're programmed to think this regardless if we've even watched them fight before. Because a lot of these fans on the internet, a lot of people who talk boxing, because I talk to a lot of these guys on the street, and when we get into deep conversations, a lot of them start telling me stuff like, "Oh, I didn't even know that." "Oh, I didn't know, Foreman fought this guy or Hagler fought this guy, Leonard, etc., etc., etc." Right? And there's nothing wrong with not knowing every single thing about boxing. I mean, even myself, I don't claim to know every single thing about boxing. For example, I didn't know that fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Hagler, and Hearns, they all avoided the very dangerous at the time body snatcher Mike McCollum. Now, if you guys want to watch that interview that I did with Mike McCollum, you'll see in that video he goes into very in-depth detail of how each of those fighters ducked him, right? So once again, the point that I'm making is you don't have to know every single thing about boxing, and that's fine. But where the problem comes in is when you try to compare Floyd Mayweather to someone else and you don't even know that person's whole story, right? You accuse Floyd Mayweather of cherry picking, and you don't know how many fighters that Sugar Ray Robinson fought that had losing records, right? You don't know how many opponents that Muhammad Ali faced that were fights just for him to win, right? And I mean, this is normal for any fighter to do this in between having really tough fights. So, but going back to the comparison of Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather, the point that I'm making basically is if you remove some of those hypnotic words like greatest of all time, legendary, if you remove those words from the equation, then what you will find out is Muhammad Ali's opponents were nowhere near as versatile as Floyd Mayweather's opponents, right? I mean, you just look at the different styles that Floyd Mayweather faced as opposed to Muhammad Ali. Once again, Muhammad Ali is known for fighting fighters like Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Ken Norton, and Joe Frazier, right? Now look at the different type of styles that Floyd Mayweather went up against. Manny Pacquiao, Juan Manuel Marquez, Shane Mosley, and then you have the Ricky Hattons is similar to like a Joe Frazier, and you have the Jose Luis Castillos, the Diego Corrales, a guy who's towering over you, right? Who fights like an aggressor, but he's towering over you, walking through punches, right? Then you have the much taller, longer Genaro Hernandez, who had a great jab, right? This guy is towering over you, 5 inches or whatever it is, and has a jab that could damn near reach from the red corner to the blue corner, okay? And I'm not even naming all of the opponents. I'm just naming a few. Of course, you still got the Canelos, you still got the Emmanuel Augustuses. I mean, you have so many different styles, right? And once again, this is not a knock on Muhammad Ali. He is one of the greatest, but I'm just saying, if you remove emotion, if you remove, certain words like, once again, legendary, the greatest, etc., if you put it in a proper perspective, then you'll find out the majority of big names that Muhammad Ali faced, their styles would have been tailor-made for Floyd Mayweather. Imagine a modern day George Foreman in Floyd Mayweather's division. Like Muhammad Ali called him, the mummy. He comes up to you like a mummy, stiff, right? Easy to hit, throws wide, looping punches, telegraphing everything that he throws. Can you imagine if that was Floyd Mayweather's next opponent? Or even a Joe Frazier. Imagine a guy in the ring with Floyd Mayweather 4 or 5 inches shorter than him, right? And he doesn't have the best defense. He doesn't have the best foot movement. Oh, he has a great hook, but outside of that, he gets hit, right? He gets hit. Can you imagine a fighter coming flat-footed, one-dimensional, just winging hard hooks? Can you imagine that type of opponent going against Floyd Mayweather? That type of style would seem to be tailor-made for Floyd Mayweather. So with all that being said, I've come to the conclusion that Ali is a better fighter than Joe Louis, and Floyd Mayweather is a better fighter than Muhammad Ali, a more well-rounded fighter. Remember, Muhammad Ali, he didn't really go to the body. Remember, Muhammad Ali, his career was pretty much over with by age 33. He was already on the decline, right? Floyd Mayweather goes to the body. Floyd is almost 40 years old and still considered the best fighter in the world. By the time Ali was around 33, he was getting beat up in sparring sessions, and he was basically starting to deteriorate. Now, I know some of you fans are going to attribute that to saying, oh, well, that's because Ali was in a lot of wars and et cetera, et cetera. And you're absolutely right. He was in a lot of wars. But that's my point. The wars he was making a lot of mistakes and getting hit with punches that Floyd Mayweather would have never got hit with, right? That's no different than one of you guys that have never boxed before. You try to turn pro and you start getting beat up continuously, and by the time you get 3 fights, your career is over with. You can't say that made you better than Muhammad Ali because you've been in bigger wars, right? For you to be in a war, that means you were most likely making a lot of mistakes in the ring. Like I always say, compared to football, you were fumbling the ball over and over. Your quarterback was getting sacked over and over. Like I always say, this is a sport. This is a competition. You do not get rewarded for dropping the ball, for fumbling, for losing. Anybody can lose. That's the easiest thing to do, is lose. Anybody can get hit. That's the easiest thing to do. But can you stand right in front of somebody like the Matrix and avoid bullet shots? Can you do that? Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest. I have his poster hanging up in my living room right now. But I'm telling you, when you're comparing him to Floyd Mayweather, he wasn't the greatest at avoiding bullets and watching them go over his head in slow motion. He couldn't do that the way Floyd Mayweather could do it. If you watch a lot of movies, Spider-Man in particular, the very first Spider-Man, before Peter Parker realized he was Spider-Man and he had already gotten bit, and all of a sudden he starts noticing his body changing. You guys remember there's that scene where he's at school, and I guess Flash or whoever it is, he basically tries to pick a fight with Peter Parker. So he's throwing punches at Peter Parker. And as he's throwing the punches, Peter Parker is seeing the punches in slow motion. And he's just looking at the punches as they're coming towards him. They're so slow, right? Now, for those of you guys who watched that movie, and I think that's the majority of all of us, that was one of the coolest scenes in the movie. The point that I'm making is, now that scene and many other movie scenes proves that a flawless victory is far more impressive than you barely beating someone, right? Your energy bar is all the way down to 5% and you barely win. To make it look easy is far more impressive than struggling to say you barely won, right? If you guys remember those old Kung Fu flicks with the voiceovers, right, that was always way out of sync. You guys remember it was always that old master guy with the long, big-ass gray beard and the bushy white eyebrows. You remember he would come out with a cup of coffee in his hand. And here he is kicking this guy's ass with the cup in his hand and not spilling a drop. Then after he whoops his ass, he goes right back to drinking his tea or coffee, whatever it is, right? These type of scenes are always in the movies because people love to watch a guy make it look easy. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.